Welcome to Unscripted with Marilyn Morales. Joining me today is Jose Escobar and Stacy Costa. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
So, Jose Escobar, you are my person today. Jose Escobar is an award-winning, nationally recognized personal development speaker, 7-time published author, sales professional, husband and father of 5 children. He leads compelling high-level communities consisting of entrepreneurs and advanced leaders through 2 multi-6-figure business models, the Entrepreneur's Bookshelf and the Connected Leaders Academy. Jose's magnetic personality shines in his presentations, where he has reached audiences collectively over 30 and radiates throughout his dynamic coaching programs, inspiring his international 230-plus entrepreneur and executive clientele to master their personal and professional excellence. His past sales experience of over 25 years led him to amass 30-plus in revenue for the companies he served. And this family man's sales and coaching in the martial arts industry has positively affected the lives of over 500,000 families for the better. Learn more about Jose's products and services at www.theentrepreneursbookshelf.com. I did ask Jose for a couple of extra things about him, about his personal life, and this is what he shared. I am a Catholic and serve a 3rd-degree Knight of Columbus in my church. I'm part of the Fathers Club at my son's school at the Heights, and I am a part of That Man Is You, a men's group in his church. So, Jose, tell me about the man that you were before you became this amazing businessman, and tell me how his life was.
I don't know if you really want to know that.
We want to know.
It might taint your opinion about me, but well, first of all, every podcast and show and speaking session and whatnot, interview that I've done has always been about business and growth and success and influence and motivation, inspiration, equipping, all that stuff, right? I haven't really shared the history quite yet, at least out there on anybody else's show, because it's actually not a pretty background, and a lot of people will kind of like have their perception of you kind of like altered when you tell them the backstory, but there is no current story without a backstory, right? So
right.
It's very important to know that too, in the same token. So backtracking, I was born in Washington, D.C., and I grew up in Montgomery County, Maryland all my life. I'm 39, about to be 40 in January, so I'm going to hang out at 39 as long as I can. So with that being said, I absolutely love Maryland. It has everything you can possibly want, all 4 seasons, mountains, beaches, lakes, you name it. I will die in Maryland one day, but I love it. So I was raised here in Montgomery County, like I said, and when my parents came to this country when they were in their teens, late teens, and my dad was my dad was like 18 or 17, and my mom was 20 when she came. So my dad came first. He started building houses. He started working as a dishwasher in a restaurant, and then he was like a cook, and then he went to like busboy, and then he was at the line, and then he was a server, and then a supervisor, and then a manager, and then a regional manager. And then he ended up owning restaurants eventually down the line, right? But the progression of life. So he came to this country first, was building homes, doing all these jobs, multiple jobs, knew no English, and came with very little education, and just worked his way. And was sending money to my mom. They already had two boys. My older brothers were already in Guatemala. They were born there. My mom came down eventually with my 2 older brothers. And then I was born, and my younger brother was born in Baltimore, Maryland. So one of 4 boys. We grew up in this neighborhood, an apartment complex. I was there from 0 till about, 12 years old. And I shared a 1 room with 4 boys on bunk beds for a decade, basically. And we always had what we needed. We had food on the table, rice and beans, and some other great dishes that my mother would make. And we had a roof over our head. We had clothes on our backs. We were going to schools in our area, public schools, and we had what we needed. We didn't have much, but we were kids and we were just having fun, and and we were provided for. We had toys, we had whatever we needed, and my parents were always working. My dad had 3 jobs at all times, and he would just come home and sleep for like, I don't know, 2 hours, 3 hours, and then go do it all over again. So we didn't really see him very much in the beginning. And my mom was cleaning 4 homes a day, doing that process, and she was always cleaning houses, and then she would come home and handle the kids, and there was that. So we grew up with very little. But we always had faith in the home. I'm a cradle Catholic. My parents are Catholic. I grew up in the Catholic faith, and they always had prayer and the importance of faith, and they instilled that in us from the very beginning. We would go to mass every Sunday, and prayer all the time, and you name it, right? We went through the whole like RC or not church programs and all. I was an altar CCD. I was an altar boy in there as well, and just a lot of stuff there. And then eventually, I lost my way. Eventually, middle school is where I got into being the reckless Jose. I think around 6th grade, I was just always causing trouble because I had more freedom, right? So I had more freedom, and it was a different kind of environment. And in elementary school, I was always a good kid. I always had the good grades. I always had the funniest in the class award and all kinds of different things like that. And I was great. But then when I got into middle school, I was influenced by the wrong people, but I was always a leader. I always had this leader type of personality, and I would actually be the one to coerce other kids to do crazy things. And
ringleader, they call that.
Yeah, so I was causing trouble, and one thing led to another. I got kicked out of one middle school, and then I went to another middle school, and I got kicked out of that one. And then I ended up in a private Catholic school, which my parents had to pay money for, but my dad was a youth minister at that church, so he got a major discount. And I went there, and in 8th grade, I almost got kicked out towards the end of the year from a, Catholic school, which is crazy because I was like, throwing like sandwiches in the fan. We were like, going around recess. I used to watch WWE Pro Wrestling, so we had this like group called the NWO. We would be like, kind of like running the the yard, I guess you could say. And they
running the yard.
They thought we were a gang, and we really were. I guess we were definitely intimidating, and we were definitely doing dumb things, but it wasn't really gang. Yeah, so they almost kicked me out for that. And eventually I got into high school. My oldest brother graduated in high school into summer school, so he didn't graduate on time. He graduated in summer school. And then my second oldest brother graduated a year late, and then I graduated 2 years late. I was a super duper senior, and then my youngest brother got his GED. So it was like a progressive, thing that happened. And I just was reckless in high school. I was partying, and I literally spent about maybe 15 to 18 years of my life, from like high school all the way up until whatever late 20s, right? Just partying, drinking all the time, getting into fights, bar fights, house parties. Never got into drugs or anything like that. I was involved with marijuana for quite like 4 years in high school. Like all the cool kids were doing that, but I never really like stuck to that. It wasn't my thing. And but I was always drinking. I definitely drank a lot. I could put a 30-pack down in one sitting, in one night by myself. They called me the liver of steel. And that's kind of how I was just party mode, and I was never dating girls. I just had a lot of different, girls that I was seeing, but I never actually had girlfriends per se. It was just like I was playing the field, if you will. And I was just that guy, and everybody knew me. I was connecting. I was the center of attention. I was the one who would always throw house parties and create all these different things. And I was arrested multiple times. I was in jail multiple times. I was in the hospitals with stitches all over my body from different fights and different things. And I hurt a lot of people along the way. And I also got hurt along the way many times because you can't win them all. And eventually I got into martial arts, and that's when things started to change. And everything completely changed when I met my wife, who's now my wife, but at the time she was my girlfriend. So that's kind of like the history of Jose. I flirted with college. I went to college a little bit. I graduated high school. Eventually I got my diploma. But then I went to college and I messed around. I was this close in associates after like 4 years of being in college. I'm a local Montgomery college here, and I never actually got my associates. And I just went into the workforce and started doing sales, and that's really what I was good at because I was a leader and I had sales abilities, and people would just do what I would tell them, and it was a good thing. So that's kind of how I ended up being successful in the corporate arena with no degree. I always got the jobs and positions that require degrees, and I still got them with no degree. And I sold that M that you talked about was 30 million. So it's 30 million.
30 million, 30 million.
Yeah. So that's kind of, I was successful there in those realms. But anyway, that's kind of a little bit of a backstory in terms of the reckless Jose that I was before, the knucklehead. I even have a tattoo here that says head buster, right? And this is nobody knows this, but it says it's like a head buster, like Buster. That was my nickname, the head buster, right? But it's the slang term Bussa, the head buster, right? So I got that term because I was always, getting into fights, and I was very successful at that. So then I said, let me just apply this to the martial arts and do something constructive with it, and that's where that happened.
So you had all these talents, right? You were just channeling them into the wrong places, right? When you were, and I talk about this because when I was young, very similar. I grew up in the projects, right? But I had everything that I needed. So the funny thing is, then I never thought I was poor because everybody around me had everything that I had, right? I didn't know what to be affluent meant because everybody was the same as me. Was that the same for you?
Roughly, yeah. They were around the same type of category, but we had slightly less because we had more siblings. We were like a bigger family, so we had slightly less because they only were one of two or one of one, or that type of thing. So and they were in different categories. Like a lot of those people that we were around at the time, their parents are American. They were born and raised here. They already
Right.
had everything from the beginning. We were like my parents were still trying to figure it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And your parents, I think, from what I'm hearing from you, they were models of hardworking, resilient individuals to try to get their four children, right? There were four of you,
Right.
ahead in life. So it wasn't something that you were seeing at home. They were actually models of quite the opposite. Correct?
Yeah, my dad, never drank. I never saw him drink, and he had a history. Without going into all his dirt, but he had a
Yeah.
history of drinking when he was younger. My mom almost left him because of that, and she said, "Listen, if you want to be a family man, you want to be with me with your kids long term, you got to stop." So he quit cold turkey. I never saw him drink growing up ever, and I always saw him work hard, and he always would love on us, and spend time with us whenever he could. And he was a cook. He loves to cook, so he would always make amazing meals for us. He would cook every Sunday morning consistently. We would watch Redskins games. What was Redskins, now it's Commanders. But we'd watch the Redskins games with him on his lap on Sundays. And he was just a great dad. A great leader of the household, man of God, very spiritual. My mother was super hardworking and a go-getter as well. And together combined, they were a force. And nothing could stop them with all the challenges that they had.
Right. And you alluded to something very similar. So your dad changed because of your mom,
I was thinking
Yeah.
that.
and you mentioned your wife. So tell us more about Katie.
Well, I met Katie. It's interesting because she used to date my cousin. Nobody really knows this, but my cousin, my direct blood cousin, she used to
He
date,
knows?
Okay.
yeah, so she used to date him, and that was like high school sweethearts kind of thing. And then they kind of separated when she was in college, and she kind of did her own thing, and they kind of split apart. And I ran into her like 8 years later, something like that. Well after they were already broken up, but he's, I guess, still had a thing for her or whatever. So I ended up throwing a birthday party. It was, I think it was my 30th birthday party. I don't know what it was, or 29th. I don't know what it was, but I had a birthday party. Maybe my math is off. And I threw a birthday party at a nightclub called Ultra Bar here in DC. And, because I was still in that phase of partying all the time and doing things. So I invited all my friends, and I invited my female cousin, Karina, and her brother is the one that, used to date my wife. So of course, Karina brings a bunch of girlfriends with her. She's like, "Hey, we're going to the clubs and be a good time. Who wants to come with me?" So she sends out some messages, and she was still friends with Katie at the time. So she invited Katie. And tell me why Katie shows up, and the dance floor is happening, everybody's dancing. I see in between all these heads, almost like a movie, in between all these heads, all the way across the room, I saw Katie dancing in the dance floor with some girls, and I was like, oh, that looks like my cousin's ex-girlfriend. So I go across the room and I say hi to her. I'm like, hey, is it okay if I ask my ex-girlfriend, my cousin's ex-girlfriend, for a dance, like jokingly, right? So she laughed and we started dancing, and that was a wrap. So we started dancing. I got her phone number, and we started talking little by little. We built a rapport, and she's Catholic. I'm Catholic. She speaks fluent Spanish. I'm Hispanic. Her job was a ELL teacher, so she teaches kids how to speak English from all over the world. That's her job, and she has traveled the country traveled the world to like Honduras and Mexico and different countries like that to do missionary work. So she has a great heart, and she's a gymnast, so she's a high-level athlete. She was like one of the best in Maryland. Her name is all over these like gymnasiums everywhere, and she was a high-level gymnast, and I was an athlete too. So I'm like, well, there's that connection there, and the list goes on. She has a master's degree and had all her self-sufficient, kind of like smart person, attractive, everything I was looking for, right? So, and then turns out that she had a 2-year-old at the time. So I met him, and we went to go eat, and he was 2 years old. His name is Noah, right? He's 15 years old now, my son. And so the biological father was never around ever, and so I basically, when I stepped in, it was like a package deal, right? So I ended up going out to dinner with Katie and him and Noah, and we ended up hitting it off. And frankly, I was never a kid person. I was like, it's not my thing, right? But then when I met him, like, we hit it off from the beginning, and it was just a progression that happened. And I started dating her, and it became official. And she was very cautious about who she would talk to because of the fact that she had, a 2-year-old. She didn't want to like bring any guy around, that kind of a thing. So we were dating for a while before I even met him. So then I think he was like 2.5 at the time when I formally sat down and met him, and that kind of a thing. And I've been in his life ever since. And I'm dad, and he's son. There is no stepson, no stepdad, because there is no biological father. It's me. I raised him basically with my wife. He's been around forever. I see him as I see all my other kids, and I have 4 other kids, biological 9. And but to me, I'm dad and he's son, and he's been such a blessing, because at the time I needed him just as much as he needed me. And it's amazing, how we both have mutually benefited from growing together.
Wow, that's amazing. Do you think that Noah was key in helping you to grow up?
100%. Katie was a big reason, but the reality is that it was both. I couldn't just appease one. I had to appease both, because they're both in the picture just as often. It's every day, Right. So I had a special connection with Katie, and I had a special connection with Noah, and then collectively it was just a unit. We were always a unit from the beginning. And but yeah, it's for sure he had a tremendous impact on basically me stepping out of boyhood and becoming a man, is really what it was. Yeah.
Right. So it wasn't even felt like a struggle to turn into this different Jose, because the Jose before Noah and Katie was a very different man.
Yeah.
Than the one that you became. Yet it seemed very natural for you.
Well, Katie had standards, which is what I love about her.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about Katie's standards.
Every other girl that I would talk to kind of let me do my thing. They didn't really impose on my lifestyle. Okay. She, from the very beginning, said, this is who I am, this is who I'm looking for, and this is what I accept and what I don't accept. She was very straight to the point. So she kind of like taught me how to treat her, and she taught me like what is acceptable, what's not acceptable, and what she's looking for in a man, right? So she kind of had the ground rules, and she didn't really lay it out directly like on paper, like a scroll of like rules, but she definitely, like, little by little, as we were building the relationship, she was telling me and showing me what she's looking for and what she accepts and doesn't accept, and she had some standards, and that I wanted to meet those standards because I wanted to be with her, right? And then at the same time, I knew that I had this young boy who was looking up to me, and very easily influenced by my decision making. I used to smoke cigarettes, and I quit smoking cigarettes cold turkey because he didn't like it, and he told me it's not healthy. And I was like, yeah, it's a good idea. So I quit because of him. So who knows? Maybe I have an extra 20 years of my life because of him. Who knows? But a lot of things I changed. I used to drink all the time, and then I slowly stopped drinking all the time. And I drink now, but now I drink like socially. I drink socially and I drink in moderation. I don't get blitzed and wasted like I used to, So I've never really gone back to that lifestyle for, I guess, he's 15 now, so 13 years, and
Wow.
even prior to that, because I was already making adjustments because of Katie. So it's been amazing. It's been an amazing thing, and I knew that I had to change my lifestyle and my behavior because I'm being watched at all times from different angles, and sometimes I don't even realize it. So
Right. Stacey, have any questions?
I just think it's hilarious how they have women come into their family and that's it.
Yeah.
They're done. They're a whole new man, both you and your dad. But you bring up a good point that now, and not a lot of people will look at that and say, I have someone who's watching every move I make, whether you know or not. I do not have children, so I don't have that. But, everyone has little cousins or nieces or nephews, and you don't realize what you're doing. I'm also 39, so clearly what I was doing at 29 is different than 39 as well. But it does help you grow up. I could see where and I'm proud that you did that because some people might not. And now you're not only dragging her into that, now you have this little kid who's watching you drinking and throwing parties at the house or going out to clubs. So for you to understand that I have, standards that I want to meet too now, and it took her and your son is just sometimes for guys it still doesn't work. The standards sometimes still don't matter. So
yeah,
that's very impressive. And then going from there and building what you've built by learning all the things that you've done in the past is we've all been there.
Right. Listen, I think Katie has a business about to emerge here. She's got a coaching business that she needs to do here because, yeah, I think that's an important message, especially for our female listeners out there, is that you do have to set the standards. You shouldn't be accepting less than what you want for yourself. And
yeah,
if the man really wants to be with you, then he will meet the standard. Don't lower yours, right?
yeah.
Have him raise to yours, right? Because
That's
that's,
very much what it was. She completely like made me rise higher, right? And
yeah,
I wanted to I was like, oh, I would love to move in with you, and she was like, we're not moving in until we're married, and this and this, and so all kinds of standards that she had, and I think it was a healthy thing, and we're better for it.
right, right. Just just putting it out there. I had those same standards, and that's why I'm married for almost 30 years.
Yeah.
Same thing.
So same,
Same
yeah.
thing.
My parents have been married for 40 in December. It'll be 49 years.
Yeah.
And her parents, Katie's parents, have been married for like 43, 45 years, something like that. So we come from strong households of like faith and family and that type of thing with great examples. And it doesn't mean that the only times the marriages that last are the ones that come from great examples. No, because at some point we got to make our own decision to learn about what it is to be a good husband and a good father and
That's
a
right.
good wife and all that. You got to step into your own. But it does help to have those influential
Absolutely.
people growing up, and it's definitely helped me and it's helped her. And now we're doing our own thing, and we all have challenges like any relationship, but we see it through every time, and it's just we both lift each other up, and her philosophy and my philosophy is the same, which is my goal is to get her to heaven and her goal is to get me to heaven. So we got to make each other better at all times, and that's what we do. We inspire each other.
Right. That leads me into my next question. And that has to do with faith, right? Cradle Catholics. I'm a cradle Catholic myself. And, sometimes you get to a point when you become a teenager where you question the things that you're being taught, especially in Catholicism, when you hear all the different things that are going on. You start to question that. You start to question your beliefs and your faith and everything else. And you take a different path, right? Take a different road for a little bit. How did you come back? How did you get that faith back to the point where you are right now, where it's so strong after taking that detour? What brought you back? And was that Katie again?
Well, first of all, to clarify, I don't think it ever left me. I don't think I ever left or
Okay.
turned my back on it, saying like, "Oh, I don't believe in this," or "I'm starting to be like faithless." Or I always had a strong faith, always, even when I was making stupid mistakes. The difference is that, you can be ignorant, meaning like not know something. Ignorance is not a bad word. You can be ignorant and do things that are not appropriate, right, against your faith, and then you can also know something and still do something, and that's called stupid, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
would rather be ignorant than stupid, and I was stupid for a long time. because I was doing dumb things that I wasn't supposed to be doing with my faith, but I knew and I still had it in me. And I was always apologizing to God in prayer. And I was always like thinking about it. It was always on my mind. It was like instilled in me right from the beginning. So I was the kind of guy who wanted to learn on my own. My dad was mentoring me forever. He was always on my side, and my mom too, but my mom was a little more like tough in terms of like, how she handled it. Like she would like give me like a stiff arm when she needed to, right? But she was always there for me too. My dad was the one who would pull me aside and go sit outside with me when I'm drunk, coming home wasted. And he would sit down with me and just tell me, what are you doing with your life? So he was the more mentor kind of approach. But nonetheless is that I just, always had it in me. I went to the edge, but I never went off the ledge. I went as far off as I could to test the waters, and I would even put my foot on the other side, kind of like still on this side, but never to the point of no return. And I've had like more than 9 lives where I've been shot at, not at me, like actually shot and hit, but I've been shot at in my direction. I've had all kinds of crazy situations. I got hit in the head with a pipe and massive concussion that could have easily have taken me out. It was like massive. Anyways, a lot of stories that happened that I'm like surprised I made it through that, Anyway, so the point is that for me, when I ended up with Katie and that whole thing and then Noah and the whole change that happened, I started to re-embrace going to mass every Sunday. I started to embrace going to confession, at least once a month. And I started to embrace prayer consistently, just more of what I knew I was supposed to do. And now I had more of a reason because I felt like, well, I'm a leader here and people are watching me and my wife wants this. And, I want my son to know this and I want my future kids to have a certain way of being. So that led me eventually in 2019, I started praying the rosary every day because a mentor of mine said to me, part of that man is you. Every Saturday morning, I would go at 7 a.m. to a men's group of about 100 men at my church where they would like do all kinds of mentorship and stuff like that in the faith. And one gentleman there said, was a priest actually, said that the power of the rosary, if you pray the rosary every single day, it's hard to pray the rosary and sin at the same time. If you have a sin that you keep going to that is taking you down and tearing you down, but you're praying the rosary every day, it's hard to do both. You're eventually going to quit one of the two, but you're not going to do both forever. Right. So I tested the theory, and for a whole year of 2019, when my transformation happened, I prayed the rosary every single day, even when I was on business trips in Vegas. And I was with some buddies that are kind of, wild, and they're like, "You're praying the rosary?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm my commitment." So in my hotel room, and I did that for a year, and the sins that I was doing at the time are gone, no longer present. And I still pray the rosary every day, and this is part of who I am. And my faith is stronger than it's ever been. And most people would never know because they look at me and they see me with, skull tattoos all over my body everywhere. And they're like, who is this, crazy character? But, it's just a cover. What's in the heart here is I'm the same dude that I was when I was in elementary school, being the comedian and all the kids loving me and the teachers loving me. I'm the same guy.
Right. The same talents are there from before as they are today. Right. So you talk about this transformation that happened in 2019. Take me to that now. What did that look like?
So I was average Joe, average Jose, I guess you could say, across the board. Average husband, average father, average spiritual life, average income, average health, average everything. And I said, there's seeds of greatness within me. I'm very aware of this. I'm a lifelong learner. I read all the books. I go to seminars. I've invested tens of thousands of dollars into my personal development. And I was always learning, and not applying anything. So I said, it's time to start learning and applying. Information with implementation equals results, right? Transformation. Right. So I said, for 1 year, I'm going to commit to a morning routine and an evening routine. I call it the bookends of your day, how you start your day, how you end your day. I'm going to apply this for 1 whole year in 2019. I told my wife, and I said, I'm going to see what happens. And I've learned from the greats like Robin Sharma, Hal Elrod, Tony Robbins, John Maxwell, the list goes on. And sure enough, in that 1 year of just applying those principles, 5 a.m. wake up time, 10:30 bedtime, structure, discipline, mental toughness, extreme ownership, no excuses. That 1 year, I more than doubled my income. I got a raise at my day job to sales director for the U.S. territory. That position didn't exist. They created it for me. I didn't know how to launch a social media marketing agency. I just figured it out. I got a certification from Ty Lopez. I launched my business called Fat Class Marketing. Between my raise and between my business, I more than doubled my income that year. I lost 36 pounds, was in the best shape of my life at the time. I became a better father, a better husband, not just because of my opinion, but because of the feedback that I was getting and the improvement in the relationships. My spiritual life went to an all-time high because I was reading the Bible every morning, doing Scott Hahn Bible studies with it. I was praying in the morning and in the evening, prayer time, including during my meals 3 times a day. I was praying the rosary every single day. I was going to mass. I was going to confession every other week, twice a month. I started reading a book a week that year. So I read 52 books in 2019. And my emotional state used to be like this. It started to be like this, and the list goes on and on and on. My whole life changed in 2019. And when it changed, I said, I'm never looking back. I'm going to instill these systems to continue to change my life, and it's only going to get better. And I'm going to find a way to teach other people how to do the same thing. And that's kind of what happened.
So 2020 was a really difficult year for a lot of people. This was 2019. How was 2020 different for you?
How was 2020 different?
Yeah, everybody went through COVID. A lot of people,
Yeah.
struggled with their businesses, but
Yeah.
it seems like you were on this path of success. Did that success continue into 2020?
So 2020, I lost my business.
2020.
So I lost my business, Fat Glass Marketing, because of the COVID. I was servicing restaurants and bars, helping them with their social media, and that tanked, and the business disappeared. I still had the sales director position on my job, so I still had a 6-figure business. That was, a job, and that was fine. But I wasn't doing my business anymore. So then I said, let me launch a program, which is this whole morning evening routine mastery program, which I wrote the book on, Winning the Day here. And I decided to do that, but it took me 2 years to launch the program because of imposter syndrome, because of lack of confidence, because of fear, because I was like, in my mind, I was a perfectionist. But the reality is I was procrastinating, not really about perfectionism. It was about procrastination in disguise. So I ended up, I was in my own head, and I could have launched a long time ago. And I could imagine where I'd be now if I would have launched 2 years sooner. So it wasn't until I became serious and did a pre-launch at the end of 2021 and had a serious launch in 2022 where the game changed. I hired, excuse me, I hired this guy called Richard Yu. This is an award. It's 10K in 30 days. He teaches you how to take what's in your head and turn it into a monetizable program and how to coach other people to do that. And I paid him 11K to do that. And then in the first 30 days, I made 28K. Month 2, I made 19, then 35, and so on and so forth. And that one program has ended up doing over $200,000 in a year, which is amazing. And I'm just getting started, which is awesome.
Right. So this is what's unusual. This has all happened truly for you this year, right?
The bio that you read, everything that you've read,
Everything.
has all happened in 2022. Now, there's been a lot of legwork prior to that, right? But in 2022, I co-authored 7 books. And then wrote my own, and events and Connected Leaders Academy, 232 members, 11 countries, 36 states. The morning evening routine mastery program. I'm doing speaking gigs, 3 to 4 a month. Got John Maxwell certified. I have my merchandise line of shirts, coffee mugs, all that stuff. The list goes on. It just goes to show that I'm nobody special. I just told you the crazy backstory. I told you my limited education. It's not like I'm this high-powered, higher halls of intellect with a doctorate. No, I just decided to make a commitment to change. And commitment is really the deciding factor of what actually gets people to go from point A to point B. I got tired of being a goal setter and decided to become a goal hitter. And my life just completely changed. And now I have 4 other kids and a total of 5. And the game is just the beginning. I'm super excited. And if anybody's out there listening to this, you can do the same or better. It's just a matter of you need to have the courage to step into your own, take action, and not just action, take massive action, be your own best cheerleader. Nobody's going to believe in you until you believe in you. And that's what it comes down to.
Amen. Amen. So what legacy do you want to leave your children?
So right now, one of the primary things that I do is I love finding ways for my children to catch me in the act of excellence, right? I want to make sure that I'm always doing the right things, waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning, which I do Monday through Friday, working out, building businesses, impacting people's lives, going to mass on Sundays, going to confession voluntarily and for extra credit to do the things I know I need to do, living my faith and living by what I believe, not just believing something, but living the faith and the way it's taught to live. And writing books, putting my story out there, being vulnerable, creating impact, all of these things is what I do on a daily basis. And I want my kids to see that that is just what winners do. That's what leaders do. That's what entrepreneurs do. And I want them to see that anything is possible. So my legacy I want to leave is hard work, commitment. How you do anything is how you do everything. All in, commitment, discipline, mental toughness, zero excuses, putting your money where your mouth is. When you say you're going to do something, you do it. And living a life of integrity, of character, of accountability, being kind to others, and above all, putting God first and family second. And that's really what I always talk about. God, your family, your health, your business, or your career, or your job, or your business, or your education, wherever you are in your life, and then all the other things, right? So you got to have the orders, the priorities in order. So I just want to leave a legacy of those things in a nutshell. You got to live a life well lived, and you got to do it the right way. And that's what I want my kids to see. That's what I want people around me to see. And that's the example I want to leave for people that want to say, how can I change my life? Well, here's a few things you can do.
A couple of tips and tools. So, and when we talk about faith, a lot of the people that are going to be watching us may not be Catholics, right?
Yep.
And you talk about the rosary and doing other things. What advice can you give the non-Catholic in regards to maintaining all of this?
Well,
because faith is number one.
Yeah, it's very simple. First of all, if you haven't looked into the Catholic faith, my first thing I would say is look into it. It doesn't hurt. Look into the Catholic faith. There's so much richness and truth behind it, and so much to really grab onto. It's worth researching. It's worth looking into. Now, if you are already a different religion and you're locked in, and there's no way you'll ever leave, and you're like, there's no way I'm looking to Catholicism because I'm perfectly happy here, then that's fine too. The way I see it, the Catholic faith, right? It doesn't say that if you're not Catholic, then you're going to hell. It just says that, if you are Catholic, you need to stay Catholic, right? And you need to dig deeper into your faith. Right. But if you're not Catholic, the Lord is going to look at your heart, and not so much your just religion per se. So you need to, whatever it is that you believe, and I'm assuming you believe in God, embrace that journey. Live authentically. Live the faith that you believe in, right? Don't just say you're Baptist, or say you're Episcopalian, or say that you're Buddhist, or say that you're Muslim, or whatever faith or religion you are. Live the faith. There's a difference between saying that you are something and living something. And
Right.
Real transformation, real change in your life, and especially for the afterlife, is not going to be based on faith alone. It's going to be based on, what are you doing about your faith? Are you living your faith? Right? And that's really what it comes down to. So I encourage people, I'm not telling you I'm right and you're wrong. I'm telling you, live your faith and live it fully. Right. And embrace the journey, and don't make excuses, because we make excuses every single day to not do the thing that we know we need to do. And that's called discipline. Right. So embrace discipline, the discipline muscle.
Right. Discipline and all of that, because there are people that may not be in agreement with organized religion, but consider themselves spiritual, right? Yeah. They believe in something. It may not be the God that we know, or what we call different names, but we're spiritual, right? Yeah. And that doesn't mean that we're not going to be successful, and that we're not going to make it to the afterlife. I think we are all going to make it. Every one of us is going to make it if we live a good life. If we stick to those tenets of living a good life, being committed, just like you say, and doing all those things. There's a lot of different things that you mentioned here, and they're all excellent. And if we put them all together, we can all be successful together. Stacey, do you have any other thoughts before I ask my final?
I was just going to say, for anybody out there who's like me, I was born Catholic, same thing, just never practiced it. It just wasn't, stopped at my grandparents, and that's it. So my parents weren't into organized religion, but as a family, everyone has a belief, whether it's a God, a higher power, a spiritual thing, an afterlife, before life, whatever there is. And I do think if that's what your thing is faith, and that's what's going to get you to get to your highest goal instead of just setting them and hitting them, as you're saying, then that's great. And some people, it might just be that, you believe that there's a spiritual being or something out there, or you just want to be a good person. And that's what you need to hone in on and do all those things that you have faith in a different way. faith in, good in people, the faith in helping other people, things like that, instead of maybe not everybody's going to be about the actual faith as religion as they speak. But I do think what you said about procrastination, I mean, I'll be one of the people that will say it. I will plan, and here are my goals, but I never think about it as like being the goal hitter. It's I'll set them and fall short. Like it happens. But you're right. Like there needs to be some type of determination and drive to get someone to that point. And I think that sometimes is the hardest thing for people, is to believe in themselves in order to get to where they need to go, because we're our own roadblocks half the time. At least I am. Like, oh yeah, I can't do that. I'll never be able to do that. What you're doing, no way. I mean, honestly, I'd be like, no way, I can't do that. You saying all this, I'm like, yeah. How do you have time for anything else? Like, I just, you feel like you have your family, you have the religion, you have your businesses and other ones. So I feel like for some people, I'd be like, oh, I couldn't undo all that. And I probably could if I actually did it, sat down and planned it out. And I think people can get intimidated by things as well and be like, oof, it sounds like too much work, or it sounds too much. Yeah. I rather not. But if you can, I mean, that's amazing.
And another thing I think is that you have to want, right?
Right.
Les Brown says that you got to be hungry, right? You've got to want what Jose has. Right. You've got to want that. You have to have that same vision for yourself. And we talk a lot about that. I've done a lot of things in 2022 also, right? I did my book. It's launching together with Jose and Jen, and we're launching it together that same weekend. And people ask me all the time, how'd you get the time to do all that? And it's applying a lot of the same principles. I actually took Jose's program, the morning and evening routine, and it gave me accountability, right? Because that's what I was missing. I knew how to do all these different things. I've done it throughout my life in order to be successful. But nobody was holding me accountable to it. So
from knowing you and knowing your journey into what you're doing, it's always never the right time. I'm going to start this next year. I'm going to start this in 6 months. I've heard you say it for however many years I've known you now,
That's
like
right.
8 or something.
That's
so
right.
I feel like and then something clicks or something happens where you're like, I'm done. Like, I just need to do it. And what you've accomplished in not even the year, really, I mean, almost, is amazing in yourself. Everybody wants to talk about what they want to do or what they wish they had, but nobody wants to
do it.
It's hard to do it. You have to have the motivation and the compassion and the passion to do it. And you both clearly do.
Right. It was the vision, what I want for myself. And I met those goals, what he wanted for himself. And he met those goals. You just got to know what it is that you want for yourself. Right. And then stick to the plan and get it done, which leads to my last question. And that is, what is Jose Escobar? How do you define success?
Success is being accountable to your 10 life domains, because it's not just about finances. It's not just about being a good husband or a good father or being healthy. These are all like different things that people could say is success to them, right? For me, life is holistic. And I always reference Michael Hyatt's book, Your Best Year Ever. There's 10 areas of your life that require you to show up. Because if you don't, it's going to go to the wayside. And every aspect of the 10 different areas is interconnected to the other one. So if one of them, 2 of them, 4 or 5 of them are put under the rug, they're going to show up in other areas of your life. And it's going to affect every other component. So true success to me is fulfilling a commitment to all of the 10 areas of your life: marital, parental, social, emotional, intellectual, financial, vocational, avocational, intellectual. I mean, there's 10, spiritual. There's 10 areas of your life. And you can't disregard any of them, because they somehow, some way are going to do this. And if there's something missing, it's going to show itself. So I think that's the key, is to be well-rounded, to really tap into all the different components of what life requires of us, and to do it well. right? Because again, how you do anything is how you do everything. So the way I show up in my workouts is the way I show up to stimulate my mind, is the way I show up for my spiritual life, is the way I show up as a husband, as a father. And this is what it's all about. So you got to be fully aware of where you are now, where you want to be, and what needs to happen at all times.
That's right. That's phenomenal. Jose, congratulations on a phenomenal 2022. I know 2023 is just going to be even greater than that. Tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, so you can check out the website below, the entrepreneursbookshelf.com. That has information about my morning, evening routine mastery program. It has information about the Connected Leaders Academy. It has some general information about me in general. And then, of course, you can go to winningthedaybook.com, which is also below scrolling. Again, winningthedaybook.com. That is the link to purchase my book. It's called Winning the Day, an Entrepreneur's Guide to Morning and Evening Routine Mastery. And you can also find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. I live on Facebook. That's kind of the space where you'll find me most of the time. You can easily send me a DM. I'm very quick to respond. And that my symbol is the the handle is the @ symbol JAESCO25. So JAESCO25. And you can find me on any of those 3 platforms. Would love to connect with you. If anybody has any questions, thoughts, comments, you want to look into anything I have to offer, or you want to just get to know me or know each other, I'm always networking, and reach out. Would love to connect with you.
And you've heard the real deal right here on Unscripted with Marilyn Morales. Thank you, Jose, for being our guest today.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gabrielle Morales, and I am a recruitment coordinator for Be The Match. My journey with Be The Match actually began when I was only 9 years old. At that point, my 7-month-old baby sister was diagnosed with an extremely rare form of leukemia. Through the Be The Match registry, we were able to find a matching donor for my sister. And although a few months later we lost her, her cancer was cured. Our family is so thankful for the additional months that we had with my sister. And ever since then, I've made a promise to myself to dedicate my life to helping children just like Isabella and helping families like ours by continuing her legacy. Hence why I now work for Be The Match. I love what I do so much, and I'm able to spread awareness about the huge need for more donors on the registry, especially those of diverse backgrounds. There is currently a huge disparity within the registry for minority patients, and we need your help. It is so simple to save a life and to be put on the registry. You can visit izzy'slegacy.com or text Izzy's Legacy to the number 61474 to start the registration process to be on the Be The Match registry, to hopefully be a life-saving match for a searching patient in need.